And you're going to find out that when you get out, even though there's some broad guidelines for rabies, sometimes each state sort of tweaks the way they do their rabies vaccination. In both, especially in animals and sometimes in humans. So we're going to talk about that. The stuff I'm going to give you today is correct. Just keep in mind that some states are going to tweak some things that's going to look a little different, but they're basically the same, okay? I got a few handouts from CDC that I'm going to give to you next week too, but I want to get through them all today, okay? As a matter of fact, of those 5 organizations we listed, which one of those is responsible for rabies protocol? CDC, okay? Which comes under what division? Health and Human Services, right? That and what other organization? Come under Health and Human Services? FDA, okay, FDA. What comes under USDA? APHIS and what? FSS, okay? Which organization is responsible for meat inspection? Meat inspection. Food Safety Inspection Service, right? Which organization is responsible for inspection of farm-raised catfish? It's FSIS, Food Safety Inspection Service. Anything else involving fish is regulated by who? Fish and Wildlife, right? Okay? Okay? They're going to be a bonus somewhere. I don't know where I'm going to put it.
So next week is our real quiz?
This is, no, the real quiz is 2 weeks from now, on the 24th. This is, and I'm not even going to look at the answers. This is an attendance quiz. So you get a couple of points somewhere. I haven't decided you're just going to be your quiz or your final, but you get a couple points somewhere for this quiz. If your name is on it. Okay? Okay. The first thing we'll talk about rabies is the human protocol. And this is probably what you all went through, right? Y'all taking rabies vaccine? Okay. Well, first of all, for the etiologist, it's a lysovirus under the family Rhabdoviridae. Is this a DNA or an RNA virus? RNA virus. I guess I gotta read up there.
Let's see that.
But one thing you find that you can find intracytoplasmic inclusion bodies in neurons. But I will tell you that since I have been here, we probably had 20 cases of rabies that were confirmed by FA. I have not seen an inclusion body yet. So don't stick your hat on inclusion bodies being there, although it can produce inclusion bodies. Most of the time, you get it from bites of infected animals, and in laboratory, you get aerosol transmission. Most of the time, if you've been bitten, you know you've been bitten, right? But a few cases in the U.S. have happened when people were asleep at night, left the windows open, and a bat flew in. Some of them have definitely been bitten by the bat, but some of them they really don't know if the bat bit them or not. Okay? But you can get it that way too. Okay? With Wilson's bats. Okay? Yes, question?
This isn't referring to the rabies, but you said our quiz is on the 24th?
Yes. I told you once it will be on the 17th next week, but I'm telling you now it's going to be 24th, as was scheduled in the original syllabus. Okay? Okay? So next week will be regular lecture, and then on the last day of class, 24th, we have the final quiz. And after we have it, we'll go over it. Here's the thing, clinical signs. Sometimes these clinical signs will occur, you generally expect them to occur about what, 10 days, 5 to 10 days after you've been bitten. But sometimes it may be weeks or years before the clinical signs show up. Okay? It may be weeks or years. There's one instance where a man was bitten on the foot, and somehow the virus never made it out of the wound. But then a piano fell on his foot, and 2 weeks later he had rabies. So sometimes it can become caught up in the wound. And one thing I always tell you, I've been bitten by a rabid animal. What's the first thing you should do? You should clean that wound out as good as possible. You can use good old soap and water. The virus doesn't live very well in the outside, so you have to clean it out very well. It's the first thing they tell you to do. Clean the wound out very well with soap and water. Okay? Clinical signs can range anything from headaches, irritability, seizures, hallucinations, and finally paralysis. So they're basically what? CNS related, okay? It usually what bites and it goes up the nerves to the brain, and so you finally get paralysis, right? Sources. You can get it from dogs, and depending on what part of the country you're in this part of the country, up and down the East Coast, by half Alabama, it's basically raccoons, okay? You can also get it from skunks. Out west, a few places, primarily foxes, okay? But all of those can spread rabies. Dogs used to be a primary reservoir, but vaccination has eliminated dogs as a primary reservoir of the virus anymore. Usually you'll see worldwide there are about 40 to 70,000 deaths a year. But in the USA, for the last 20 years, there have been about anywhere from 1 to 3 deaths a year, okay? About 7 years ago, a woman had it in Alabama. She had been in a coma for 2 years, and in 2 years after she died, they finally found, she had rabies. So it wasn't a classical sign, but she did have rabies. And there have been a couple of people who have recovered from rabies. There are a couple of people that have recovered from rabies. Only about 2 or 3 of them have recovered from after having the rabies. Okay? Most of the cases in the U.S., most of them is when someone has come from another country or someone has visited the country and they will contract the virus there. Now, there are some cases in the U.S. and they use associated with bats and things like that. Okay? We had a building here on campus that was infested with bats, and every time, and they got laws against killing bats, but every time one of them would die, you think they were positive for rabies? Yes, they pretty much were. So, bats are primary source. What do you think? Well, what another thing? Yes.
So I know where I'm from, we have a rabies vaccination program for bats. Do they not have something like that in Alabama?
I don't know of any active program like that now. I don't. Okay. Yeah, I know that sometimes in wildlife they got these baits that they will put out so that the animal will bite the baits and get some immunity. I know that in wildlife they've done it. But I never heard of anything for bats in Alabama. But they have used the ones for coyote and skunks and raccoons in the wild sometimes to try to decrease the incidence there. What do you think, like 100 years ago, or 200 years ago, when a human was out in the wild, when rabies was really a problem in the U.S. up until about the 50s. What do you think they did with people 1840, 1890, when they're out in the wild and they got bitten by a dog and they knew they had rabies? How do you think they handled that person?
Youth dissolve.
They what?
Youth dissolve.
Now what they did is they actually put them in a cabin. They locked up all the windows, and yes, and they had a little place in the bottom where they would shift food and water under the door until they died. Because there's nothing you can do for them. But very little you can do now. But you can keep them sedated, but that's what they did. And so sometimes they'll go wild, they'll be throwing things to add stuff there because of the effects of the virus. But that's how they treat it. They lock you in a room in the dark, and that's where you stay until you finally die. Yes?
Did they know it was a virus, or did they just think that it was turning into an animal or something?
They didn't know what it was, but they knew that when animals were bitten by, knew what rabid animals were. They knew when people were bitten. Most times then it was dogs. So they had, okay? So I used to always wonder when I used to go coon hunting. You always figure, well, if the coon ran away, he was probably in pretty good shape. But if one of those slow ones, you might want to hold on for him. Okay. As far as human vaccine, this is what you all probably took. They usually get it people in high-risk occupations with the veterinarian and people who work with livestock. It can also, the vaccine has been shown to help prevent disease when administered shortly after exposure. And we'll talk about that in a little while, okay?
Wait, one more.
Yes.
How would it dispose of the bodies like if once they died from rabies?
They would just, they didn't have any special cost, just bury them for the most part.
It's okay for them to grab the bodies that have rabies?
Rabies is primarily going, you want to put your hand in the saliva, but rabies is primarily going to be transmitted by biting or inhalation. Now you want to put your hands in it if you got a foamy mouth, but now that's what it'll do. As a matter of fact, when we do necropsies on, although when the students do this, when we do necropsies on rabid animals, we suspect with rabies beforehand. They don't really consider that contact for the most part. And we cut them up sometimes, they have to burn them, so yeah, that's what they consider that way. Now, this is for what you all probably took. If you have frequent contact, you possibly have frequent contact with rabid animals. Every one of y'all probably took this. You came in, you took dose 1, correct? Then a week later, 7 days later, you took a second dose. And then at 21 or 28 days of age, 21 or 21 days, you took a third dose. So basically 3 doses. Dose 1 on day 1, then on day 7, and then on 21 or 28. Now that's for people who have frequent contact with possible rabid animals, okay? So it's 1, 7, 21, or what? 28. So if you're working in a clinic and you have your people who will be working with animals, this is the type of protocol you should have to prevent admission, okay? And I will tell you, if you're gonna do this, you should find out, you should get someone who can administer the vaccine or who can order it. Because sometimes, and we had cases here, where we've had people who were exposed to an animal that had rabies. And if you don't have someone who can get them in a hurry, it can create a problem. Okay? All right. Another thing they do, like in the path department here, for a person that is frequent contact with possible rabid animals, because just like if you're in a collision, the rabies vaccine is for what? For rabies you do not know about, okay? The rabies you don't know about, okay? But what they do, you do periodic testing. The CDC suggests that you do testing about every 2 years, serology. And they got a way of measuring it, and if it's less than 1, they suggest that you take a booster vaccine. If it's greater than 1, you're fine. In the path department, every 2 years, we will go down, have serum collected, and they will send it out to Kansas, I think, where they will then test the serology to see what our levels are. Okay? And if your levels are low, then you take a booster. Okay? Everybody got that? Every 2 years. Now, for those people who get vaccination after being exposed to rabies, let's say you don't have the vaccine, you haven't been vaccinated, and you get bitten by a rabid animal. What are they going to do? First of all, they're going to give you some rabies immune globulins immediately, okay? So that's why you have to have your sources available beforehand. Because once a person is bitten, you want to get that immune globulin as soon as possible. And most hospitals, most doctors don't sit around with having what? Immune globulin in the refrigerator, okay? So they can give you immune globulin. And then you get a total of 5 vaccines. One is given immediately, and then after that on day 1, on day 3, 7, 14, and 28. So it about doubles it every time. Day 1, day 3, 7, 14, and 28 days. Yes?
Just for clarification, you said the people who are in frequent contact need to be tested for their
Titers.
titers every 2 years?
Yeah, that's what CDC recommends every 2 years. Now, when, I remember when, and if you think about humans, the classic sign is you get rabies, all of a sudden you can't swallow, okay, you can't swallow, you have difficulty swallowing. When she first came here as on faculty, Dr. Casimir had a raccoon that came in. And I want to ask you, you need some help? She said, no, I got it. So, took head off, sent in, and came back positive for rabies. And when we were trying to get everything that happened, we're trying to get her tested, we're trying to get immune globulin, having difficulty on everything. So about 2 days, 3 days after she had the results to come back, she called me home. I think I'm done. I can't swallow. I'm done. And I told her, well, nothing to do now. But yeah, she was, I'm done. So, but yeah. So next time she comes in tomorrow, how's the rabies thing? Yes.
Is this the same thing as the Wisconsin protocol?
Let me this way. When you go to different sites, different states, now the ones we got for rabies for humans are pretty standard across the board. There may be some mild tweaking to it. Now, if you go to the animal protocol, sometimes they can vary a bit from state to state. Okay. I'm not familiar with the Wisconsin protocol, but I know that every state has somewhat of a different protocol. So it may be different. And it's sort of like laboratory, what works in their hands. So you find that this is a general protocol that most people go by, but you may have different tweaks in different states. Okay? Like in the initial one, we say that you do it at when you're not been exposed to rabies beforehand, you do it at day 1, day 3, and day 1, day 7, and then 21 or 28. Some states will spell out day 21, some states will say day 28. So it's sort of, some of the things will tweak a little bit, but the basic protocol is the same, okay? Especially with humans. Now, if you have been vaccinated, this is for you all. You all been vaccinated, right? You got a good time. When you're exposed to rabies, it's a pretty simple protocol. You get 2 doses of rabies vaccine. 1 dose is given immediately, and another dose is given at day 3. Okay? So if one of y'all should be exposed to rabies, what you should do, you get a vaccine that's given at day 1 immediately, and then the next one 3 days later. Okay? If you had not been vaccinated, they give you what?